Shalom. All praises to Yahweh, Bahashem Yahweh Shai, and double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone. May Yahweh, Bahashem Yahweh Shai's peace be bestowed unto you, hopefully elect. I'm your brother Yahweh Call from Great Millstone, Orlando. And I'll get right into this video here by NY Prepper. As the saying goes, you blink, you miss a lot. So, there's a lot going on. And I just want to play this video out as much as, the Spirit permits. And of course, filter through the scriptures. There's a lot going on. So without further ado, I want to play this video. Fair use, copyright disclaimer. I'm not making any type of monetary gain off of this video.
What's going on, guys? It's Greg here, aka NY Prepper. It is Tuesday, March 31st, 2026, and I have some breaking news to share with you guys. Right now it is 13:05 Eastern Time here in the United States, and I wanted to update you guys on the situation with Iran. We have some major breaking news coming in from Iran, but before I get into that, I wanted to just mention that this evening at 18:30 Eastern Time here in the U.S., we're going to be launching astronauts to the moon for the first time in 50 years. So what you're looking at here is a live shot from Cape Canaveral Kennedy Space Center of the rocket that's going to take, I believe, 4 astronauts to fly around the far side of the moon. So that is a big deal. They're going to fly around the far side of the moon in the Orion capsule, and then they're going to come back. So they're not actually landing on the moon. They're going to fly around the back of the moon, which is very interesting because there's a lot of theories of potential alien structures on the far side of the moon. So very interesting, but we haven't sent people to the orbit of the moon in 50 years. So this is huge news. I'm going to have it live this evening on my...
And we all know by now, or should know, Esau's never been to the moon in the first place. He can't get past all that radiation. We know this by now. But it just makes you wonder, what is Esau up to? The whole sleight of hand trick, which goes into that deception. Again, man, there's a lot of deception, a lot of enchantments, distractions, major distractions at that. So this is just another major distraction. Esau, he's up to something, as always.
Live stream, my 24/7 live stream, so tune in if you want to watch live. And we have some major breaking news coming in from Texas. So Texas will be conducting a statewide emergency alert system test, and it's going to also include local public warning systems on April the 2nd. Local partners across the state will test their alerting capabilities to build readiness and confirm reliability of emergency notifications. Let me just play this clip for you from the local news over there in Texas.
Heads up for everyone, you may see or hear some alerts next week, but there will be no need to panic. The Texas Division of Emergency Management is planning a statewide test of the emergency alert system on April 2nd. It will happen sometime between 10 a.m. and 12:30 p.m. That means you might get alerts on your phone or email. You may even hear outdoor sirens going off. Now, this test will include local agencies, schools, universities, and law enforcement across the state of Texas. They will be tested.
Okay, so local, schools, law enforcement, you may receive several alerts between 10 a.m. and noon this Thursday. Phones, emails, and outdoor sirens. Guys, this doesn't sound like your average emergency alert system test. This is a full-scale, top-to-bottom emergency alert test, okay? This is the type of test you conduct before some kind of major war or some kind of major contingency.
In several systems, so you may get more than one alert, but you can relax. Again, it's just a test. Emergency management officials say the goal is simple: to make sure these warning systems are working when they are really needed. Heads up.
So don't worry, it's just a test. And the U.S. national average price of gas has officially...
Yeah, that's, all because all hell is getting ready to break loose. Ezekiel 7:14, they have blown the trumpet, even to make all ready. But none goeth forth to the battle, for my wrath is upon all the multitude thereof. And as it tells us in 2 Ezra 14, get you ready to thy battle. All right, getting our minds right, while these people are trying to prepare carnally because they think they can escape Yahweh Bahashem Yahweh Shai's judgment. All right, as I said, we're spiritual preppers because Again, man, a lot of powerhouse moves are being made. All right. The land that dwelt carelessly, like the scriptures say. Right. Here it is, and Lord willing, I have another video I'm gonna get into. But all the or pretty much what we've seen 2019 leading up to 2020, the event of 2020, we're pretty much seeing that same playbook as countries are, taking measures to basically more restrictive measures and things of that nature. Yahweh Shema Shah is getting ready to shut this thing down again. So, again, Ezekiel 7:14, they have blown the trumpet even to make already, but none goeth forth to the battle. For my wrath is upon all the multitude thereof. So, Lord willing, that day is not going to catch us like a thief in the night. Meanwhile, these people, they're about to be caught slipping.
We crossed $4 a gallon for the first time in more than 3 years. So if you remember in the beginning of the Ukraine war, the gas prices went up to like $4 something a gallon. I think it was like $4.20 was the highest it went to. Well, we just crossed $4, so that's not a good sign. And the Marshall Islands out in the Pacific have declared a 90-day economic emergency due to the Iran war causing fuel shortages and price spikes. They're now talking about rationing fuel. And the European Union's energy chief urged countries in the Union to safeguard fuel supplies amid a potentially prolonged disruption in global energy markets. Wow. Dan Jorgensen, the bloc's energy commissioner, said countries should consider measures to reduce demand similar to those being implemented across Asia. He also warned against policies such as fuel price caps that could increase demand or discourage production. So, in case you guys are not aware, South Korea has already implemented fuel rationing, and they're only allowing people to drive once a week based on their license plate, and they're using license plate readers to enforce this measure. Wow. And Korean Airlines has entered a state of emergency operations status due to shortages of jet fuel in South Korea, and the Kuwait Petroleum Corporation has reported that Iranian drones struck a massive Kuwaiti oil tanker, the Al Salmi, while it was docked in Dubai's port. According to a statement, the fully laden vessel caught fire following the attack, raising concerns over a potential oil spill. Wow.
So this whole so-called Middle Eastern conflict is causing another crisis, which, like I just said, and as my man here just mentioned, countries are taking measures. So emergency powers are being enacted, right? And things of that nature. Who was at NATO or the EU rather? Trump told them to, hey man, go get your own oil. Basically. And we see the events of Revelation 17, man. Because again, all these countries, they're feeling the squeeze due to this whole so-called Middle Eastern conflict, right? As a matter of fact, speaking of the Persians, I'm gonna grab this article here. It says, Iran threatens to start attacking major U.S. tech firms on April 1st. Passover, right? It always gets spiritual, around this time. Things always pick up around this time. So, like the scriptures talk about the birth pains, right? Those waves of intensity, things happening in cycles, right? Which this is necessary for, Yahushua's return, because this is what it's all going to lead to. It's going to lead to Yahushua's return. So this is why staying occupied in prophecy, not getting entangled with the affairs of this so-called life that we live, knowing that this shit is about to be over, right? But reading this article, it says tech giants like Apple, Google, and Microsoft are among those on a target list released by Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps. It says Guard Corps warned Tuesday that if it plans to begin attacking more than a dozen American companies across the Middle East on Wednesday in retaliation for the killing of Iranian citizens in the ongoing war with the U.S. and Israel. The list of companies includes Apple, Google, IBM, Intel, Microsoft, Tesla, and Boeing, which the IRGC accused of enabling United States military targeting operations. The IRGC urged employees of the U.S. firms to evacuate and civilians in the region to stay away. So, I mean, of course, you can read the article. All right. There's such things such as banking. All right. Because again, man, the normalcy bias spirit of these people, well, that's over there, right? That's what these people, the mindset and attitude, the mindset and attitude of these people, man, well, that's over there. They think they won't be affected. But like the scriptures say, Yahweh Shema Shai is going to deal with you face to face. All right, it's about to get up close and personal for everyone. It's just a matter of what side do you stand on? What side do we stand on? Either the side of judgment or mercy. Because I come up with a lot of titles for a camp or whatnot. Two titles that I have in mind is one, the calamities. Because some brothers say when calamities come knocking at your door, well, I would say when them calamities come, they ain't gonna knock. They're just gonna come rushing in. They're just gonna kick the door in. So calamities, man, when they come, they're gonna come rushing in, man. And another one I was thinking about was something along the lines of because the scriptures talk about mercy. How Yahweh Shema Shah's mercy endures forever. But what happens when that mercy doesn't endure forever for these people? The wicked of our people, especially. What happens when mercy that's supposed to endure forever? What happens when it doesn't for these people? So just a couple of titles, had in my spirit. Ain't figured out how to word it as of yet. But yeah, man, everything is being affected. It will continue to be affected by this conflict in the so-called Middle East. And that's why we pray Yahweh Shema Shai does not take his foot off of the gas pedal of prophecy. May this shit continues to ramp up, man. When I woke up and gas was $4.20, man, initially it's like, damn, but I got excited. Waking up to $4 and gas $4.20, man. I woke up, saw that shit. Well, I didn't even wake up slacking because I was on the plantation, but just the day before, man, gas was pushing 380 something, 390. And by the time I got off the plantation and went to get gas, I saw that $4.20. Like I said initially, you're like, man, fuck. But hey, this shit got me excited, man. Because of course we're learning to exercise the spirit over the flesh. The flesh is always going to think one way, react one way, but hey, fuck that. All right, because I just did the previous video, man, is going into, a little small, quick testimony, man. Yahweh Shema Shai, he has his provisions for his elect. So as this world continues to go to shit, Lord, when our stock is going to, our value is going to continue to go up. You know, again, in certain places, man, they're already rationing, running out of fuel. Everything's being affected by the so-called Middle East war. So we'll go back to this video.
And satellite imagery suggests Iran may have moved up to 540 kilograms or 1,100 pounds of highly enriched uranium to an underground tunnel complex in Isfahan just days before Israeli and U.S. strikes in June 2025. A high-resolution image from June 9th shows a heavy truck carrying 18 shielded containers at the tunnel entrance. Wow. And last night, the U.S. launched massive attacks.
And if you don't know about that uranium, for those that don't know, that uranium, that's pretty much the main element for those ICBM missiles. So this is the whole narrative why Iran must be stopped. You know, Amalek wants to pretty much decommission them or take them out of power or whatever the case may be. You know, he wants to stop them, you know, from building these weapons of so-called mass destruction.
On Isfahan, apparently they used 2,000-pound bunker busters to target some underground ammunition storage locations. Let me just play this video for you. Absolutely insane. Wow, so you can see the ammo depots cooking off from those bunker busters. Absolutely insane. You can see ammunition flying into the air as it's cooking off. So massive attack on these ammunition storage sites and missile sites in Isfahan. And the U.S. Secretary of War says that the coming days will be decisive in the war with Iran and that Iran can do nothing about it. He also said if Iran is wise, they will cut a deal. U.S. President Trump doesn't bluff and he does not back down. You can ask Khamenei about that. He also said that Iran's defense industrial base is nearly completely destroyed. Their ability to reconstitute the weapons of war they're using now, that they're hiding in underground facilities and attriting over time, their ability to rebuild that is negligible. Wow.
And Esau's just straight up lying, because for what's being reported by alternate news medias is that a trumpet, Babylon and the Amalek, man, they're getting their ass whooped. You know, them Persians, they ain't playing. You know, they've been waiting for this. They've been waiting for this. You know, they've been planning and prepping for this. You know, and they ain't getting them Persians are handing Amalek and Babylon their ass. You know, and Trump has been doing a lot of bluffing. That's why they call him the taco. Here it is, and he might mention it in this video. I believe he mentions it, but. You know, again, Trump is talking all this shit as if he's winning and whatnot, but it's the complete opposite. You know, because I'm gonna grab this real quick, because Trump is talking all this shit, but here it is. Russia just gave oil to Cuba. So I'm gonna grab this in Isaiah 14 and 9. Hell from beneath is moved for thee. Hell from beneath is moved for thee to meet thee at thy coming. It stirreth up the dead for thee. Even all the chief ones of the earth it hath raised up from their thrones, all the kings of the nations. All they shall speak and say unto thee, art thou also become weak as we? Art thou become like unto us? So, hey, we're in that time where Babylon is becoming and is the taunting proverb. All right. Red lines keep getting crossed. And it doesn't look good for Babylon, you know. America is being called out on this bluff. All right. And of course, America isn't the big bad bully on the block anymore. All right. So you talk about being in the midst and seeing the downfall of our enemies. That's why, hey, man, like the scripture say, rejoice ye heavens and ye earth. It's talking about us, the hopefully elect, because this shit's going down. Talking about sending those troops over there, right? Well, actually, yeah, he goes into it. Keep on playing.
Strong words there from Pete Hegseth. And here we have footage coming out of India. People are panic buying fuel because of the impending global fuel crisis caused by the closure of the Strait of Hormuz. Absolutely massive lines. Look at this, guys. And the chairman of the U.S. Joint Chiefs of Staff, Dan Kane, said this morning, given the increase in air superiority, we've successfully started to conduct the first overland B-52 mission. So they're now able to fly B-52s right over Iranian territory, which they couldn't do initially because Iran's air defenses were so thick that they could shoot down the B-52s, because B-52s are not stealthy. So they were mostly using the B-52s to launch standoff weapons. So like think long-range cruise missiles, air-launched cruise missiles, but now they can actually fly them right over Iran. So that actually reduces the wear and tear on some of our more critical components like the B-2s, which we did use those several times already. So we don't have to use them as much to be able to fly over Iran and drop conventional bombs. And according to Italian newspaper La Repubblica, Italy has not authorized the U.S. to use its bases for offensive operations against Iran. The focus is mainly on Aviano Air Base, as well as Sigonella Naval Air Station in Sicily, critical for drones, intelligence, and logistics. The Italian government is avoiding direct involvement in the war. Any use of these bases for attacks would require explicit political approval, which has not been given. Now, Aviano is one of the bases in Italy where we have our B-61 nuclear gravity bombs. There's actually 2 bases in Italy where we keep nuclear gravity bombs. So we could always remove those from Italy if they don't want to help us out. But what's interesting is that the Italian defense minister said today that the reports that Italy suspended the use of its bases for U.S. military assets is false. He said that that's actually fake news, and he said that the bases remain active and that nothing has changed. He said that the government continues to follow international agreements that govern the U.S. presence in Italy, and there is no tension with the U.S. So very interesting. And Trump says France blocked planes loaded with military supplies flying to Israel from flying over their territory. But what's interesting is shortly after Trump posted that on Truth Social, the French president's office immediately posted a comment saying that France did not change their overflight rights of the U.S. Air Force above its territory, adding that the earlier accusation of Trump was a surprise. They said that bombers based in the UK fly every day over France to strike Iran. So maybe Trump is just pissed off at Macron for some reason. I'm not sure what's going on there.
And that's what tends to happen when you're mad, when you're big mad, when you're in your feelings. You tend to just talk shit. You tend to just run your mouth. So again, man, Trump is talking hella shit. Just talking out his ass. And certainly, these allies, they're like, man, what the hell are you talking about? We didn't say that. So.
And what you're looking at here is satellite imagery of that truck carrying the 1,100 pounds of enriched uranium near the tunnel entrance of Isfahan. So very concerning. And before I continue with the breaking news, and he makes gourmet, no nitro. I'll leave a link in there, and the link and the promo code are in the description. Red Sea shipping contingent upon any further escalation by the U.S. in its war on Iran. So basically they're saying if the U.S. deploys ground forces and escalates the situation, then the Houthis are going to start attacking the Bab el-Mandeb Strait, which is the strait between Africa and the Arabian Peninsula to access the Suez Canal. So that would be also catastrophic because you would have no ships going from the Mediterranean into the Indian Ocean. So be a complete closure in the Middle East. Ships would have to go all the way around Africa, which is very expensive and also dangerous. The waters around Africa are pretty dangerous. And the Secretary of State, Marco Rubio, stated that Washington is dissatisfied with NATO's cooperation regarding the Iran conflict and indicated that all cooperation will need to be reassessed following the war. And the Israeli military is providing the U.S. with intelligence and data ahead of a possible U.S. ground operation in Iran, according to Israeli Channel 12. And the U.S. CENTCOM commander, Admiral Brad Cooper, visited Israel over the last 2 days, meeting with the IDF Chief of Staff, Lieutenant General Ayel Zamir, to discuss progress and ongoing operations aimed at eliminating Iran's ability to project power beyond its borders and to reaffirm U.S.-Israeli defense coordination. So the CENTCOM commander meeting with the Israeli top general, that's huge, guys. And from what we're hearing, all the U.S. sources are saying that by next week, early next week, all the forces required for this ground invasion will be in position. We know that Marines already arrived, 82nd Airborne has already arrived, Tier 1 units have already arrived, including Navy SEALs, Army Rangers, Green Berets, you name it. They're all in position, but I think they're still deploying more forces. I believe the 10th Mountain Division will also be deployed. So like I said, if they do a ground invasion, what we're going to see is Marines doing beach landings. They have those amphibious ready groups. They're specifically set up for amphibious landings. Okay, think like D-Day, Normandy. Okay, the beach landings in France in World War II. Okay, they're going to do something like that along the Strait of Hormuz to seize critical areas. Also, the 82nd Airborne and the Special Operations and maybe the 10th Mountain Division will be deployed to the interior of Iran to seize control of that enriched uranium that you see here on this satellite image. And the Israeli Defense Minister Israel Katz announced that the IDF will establish a security zone inside Lebanon all the way up to the Litani River. Okay, so Israel's pushing their borders north now. And 12 A-10 Thunderbolts with the Michigan Air National Guard's 107th Fighter Squadron were seen departing yesterday from Peace Air National Guard Base in Portsmouth, New Hampshire for an impromptu deployment to the Middle East. So that's pretty interesting, guys. You know what A-10s are for? They're for close air support. They fly very low, and they specialize in destroying tanks and armored vehicles to support infantry movements, okay? So they're sort of like an attack helicopter. They function in the same way as an attack helicopter, but they're an actual warplane, and they have some very impressive armament, and they're able to sustain multiple impacts by missiles and armor-piercing ammunition and continue to carry out their missions. They have very powerful weaponry, and also their armor is what they're very well known for. They're able to fly very low and take multiple hits and still survive. So it sounds like they're preparing for this ground invasion. And a U.S. official told Al Jazeera that elements of the 82nd Airborne have arrived in the Middle East over the weekend with additional forces, including the 1st Brigade and logistics and communications specialists, bringing the total to around 3,000 troops this week. Wow. And Trump told the New York Post that the U.S. will find out in about a week whether Iran's parliament is willing to work with Washington. So he's giving them another week until after Easter. And the United Arab Emirates...
Because he keeps, like I said, in red lines, they keep drawing, man. They stepping over those lines. They're saying, fuck those lines, man. And again, Babylon, Esau, Trump is being called out. His bluff is being called out. But again, man, call Halayim Yahweh Bashmal Shai. This thing is heating up. Grab this in Joel 2 and 18. Then will the Lord be jealous for his land and pity his people. Because with that being said, I'm going to jump to chapter 3 in verse 1. For behold, in those days and in that time, when I shall bring again the captivity of Judah and Jerusalem, I will also gather all nations and will bring them down into the valley of Jehoshaphat, with Yahweh's judgment, and will plead with them there for my people and for my heritage Israel, whom they have scattered among the nations and parted my land. So, like I said, man, Yahweh Bashma Shabbatazah, he does not take his foot off the gas pedal, because this is what we're seeing. All right, the gathering up. 2 Edges 13, at some point they're this thing is going to get hot. All right. These nations, they're going to be fighting each other, right? And they're going to stop fighting each other to fight Yahushua. And from there, the elect are going to be delivered. So this is what we're seeing, man. This is what we're seeing in the works. All right, Yahweh Bashmal Shai, he's stirring up that spirit, gathering these nations for this third world's woe. All right, that the scriptures prophesy would happen. Revelation 9, Revelation 11. All right. Yeah, and as I quoted, hey, the third woe cometh quickly. So Revelation 16. Revelation 16 and 12. And the sixth angel poured out his vial upon the great river Euphrates, and the water thereof was dried up, that the way of the kings of the east might be prepared. Again, this is what we're seeing going on. As the scriptures say, man, Yahweh Bashma Shah, he's the one that stirs the minds of the people. All right. Jump down to verse 16. Revelation 16 and 16. And he gathered them together into a place called in the Hebrew tongue Armageddon or Armageddon. So again, man, this is we're seeing the stepping blocks, the steps. All right, the process again. Yahweh Bashma Shai is gathering the nations up, gearing them up for this next world's war. All right, and from there the elect are going to get delivered. So, like I said, man, there's a lot going on. Of course, in the process, distractions, enchantments. All right, but this is why we just stay in tune with Yahweh Bashma Shai as much as possible. And stay occupied in prophecy, staying in the spirit. Because again, you blink, you miss a hell of a whole lot. So Lord's will, this was edifying. All praises to Yahweh Bashma Shai. Shalom to you, hopefully, like.